Hi guys, Grand J here and welcome to another one of our videos. Today I'm just going to do a quick impromptu video. So recently there was a Facebook post by Vince who was asking, alright, could one of the maths nerds do some of the mathing about this card, Ramza? So it comes out in the new Wraiths vs Knight starter deck. It is Ramza, it's a 5-cost backup. When Ramza enters the field, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 forward, 1 backup, and 1 summon among them into your hand, and put the rest of the cards into a break zone. Also for Lightning 1 Doll, put Ramza into break zone, choose 1 monster, break it. So we're not going to be worrying too much about the second ability, but we're going to be looking at the first ability, right? So in the most optimal situation, you can get free cards for a 5-cost backup, which means you are actually netting positive CP value off of this card. So Vince was really just asking about the probability and the chance of you getting free cards, right? So do note, even though it doesn't say add up to, it means that even if you only reveal, say, just a forward, like just all 3 forwards, you do add 1 forward amongst them into your hand. You don't have to reveal all 3. You don't have to reveal a forward, a backup, and a summon in order to get any cards at all. So if you reveal a forward and a backup, you can get a forward and a backup, and so on, right? So you basically take as many of these that you can from the free cards that you reveal, right? But you are revealing free cards, and you know it's not the greatest odds that you're going to get one of each card, right? So we decided to do the maths. I created a Google sheet that does run this simulation for you guys as well. So there's going to be a link in the video description. If this is on Facebook, then there's going to be a link somewhere as well. That's where this Google sheet is. I believe it's set to read only as well. So the original is set to read only. So all you have to do is just go to File, make a copy, and then you can save a copy into your Google Drive. And then you should be able to edit it from there, right? So the basic gist of it is this: we have 3 fields, and these 3 fields are the number of cards or the number of quantity of a specific type of card in your deck, right? So how many forwards you got left, how many backups you got left, how many summons you got left in your deck, right? So these are the only 3 things you have to edit or change. Everything else is automated. Don't touch anything else, right? Total cards is obviously just like a total of all these cards. Do note that I didn't put a field for how many monsters are in your deck, just because I couldn't be bothered and the maths was a little bit annoying on it. Just assume that if you're going to be playing Ramza, just don't put monsters, because it's going to really ruin the odds of you getting good cards very, very quickly, right? So for example, if I wanted to change the number 4 to say 22, see, automatically it will change how many total cards there are. These 3 fields, these are just telling you what's the chance of you getting a forward, what's the chance of you getting a backup, what's the chance of you getting a summon. These next couple lines is the chance of you getting 1 card exactly from it, exactly 2 cards or exactly 3 cards, right? And then this one is just a combination of 2 success and 3 success. So I think it's just it's just these 2 probabilities added up. So this is the odds of you getting at least 2 cards. So this is the odds of you getting 2 or 3 cards as well, which is generally a pretty good optimal place to be at. Basically, we just really want to avoid just getting 1 card off of Ramza, because effectively we're spending 5 CP to get 1 card. That's actually kind of bad. But spending 5 CP to get 2 cards, that ends up putting it on equivalent to most of the free CP backups that serve for a card anyway. So this is actually pretty relevant. It's kind of the baseline of where we want this card to be at. So basically, all you have to do is just make a copy of this spreadsheet, and then you can run through the numbers yourself. Let's say if I want to run a deck that's got say 25 forwards, I don't know, 10 backups, and then summons, I don't know, let's say 11 or something, right? So this will just automatically do the numbers for you, right? So you guys can mess around with that. I've got a tab here, which is some pre-saved scenarios that I have, and I'm going to be running through some of the conclusions that I made, right? So scenario 1, I just said cool, this is just an initial test. Let's go 30 forwards, 15 backups, 5 summons, and I ran some numbers. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Chance of getting 2 cards is 66%. Chance of getting 3 cards, 10%. Not too bad. The chance of getting 1 card, 23%. So it's actually pretty high there, because the summon count is kind of low, right? And then I ran scenario 2, which is basically the same thing, but with a more standard deck ratio, which is 25 forwards, 17 backups, and 8 summons. And there, basically, the two card success doesn't really change all that much. But it does really balance out your 1 success and your free successes. So your free successes goes up if your summon count increases, and your forward count decreases a little bit. So basically, you get the same odds of hitting 1 card or 3 cards, but a large majority of the time you'll be hitting 2 cards as well, and so on. So the thing is, though, At 50 cards is a little bit unrealistic because when you're like, if you play this card on your first turn, you will have drawn 6 cards or 7 cards, depending on if you're going first or second. And that's what scenario 3 and scenario 4 are about. So basically, they take the same ratios as scenario 2. So they take the same 25, 17, 8 scenario, and then basically say, if you draw your opening hand of 6 or 7 cards, these are on average what you'll have left in deck. So on average, on your first turn, you will have 22 forwards, 15 backups, and 7 summons in your deck. That's if you're going first, or if you're going second, 21, 15, 7, right? So obviously these numbers are going to vary depending on specifically exactly what you draw and the odds and so on. And you technically could do further maths by then like counting the cards that you mulliganed as well to mess around with the numbers. There's like way more maths we can do about this, but this is just in terms of like a very simple overlook of if we were to play this card on turn 1. And in this case, these are basically two interchangeable. These two scenarios are basically interchangeable because it's just like one card different, right? So the odds of getting 1 success is about 15 or 14%. So it's about 1 out of 7 chance that you'll get only 1 card. It's about 68, 69. So let's just round it to like nearly 70%. So nearly 70% of the time, which is like over 2/3 of the time, you'll get 2 cards, which is actually pretty good. And then about 15%, about 15% of the time, or basically about 1/7 of the time, you'll get 3 cards as well. So 2/3 of the time, you'll get 2 cards, which is like fine. 1/7 of the time you will get 3 cards, which is fantastic, and then about 1/7 of the time you will fail. So overall, if you just look at your ability to get 2 or more cards, 85% of the time is actually pretty good. It's quite a good bet. But not quite consistent, right? So let's say if we were to tweak our scenario just a little bit, and let's say if we were try to build our deck optimally for Ramza. So obviously, if Ramza says take 1 of each card in order to maximize the value, then you really want to just like make everything equal, right? So let's say if you're going first and you've drawn your 6 cards, which means you've got 44 cards left in deck, and let's say in the most optimal situations, the remaining cards of your deck is 15, 15, 14, right? So it's almost a complete exact split. In that situation, the chances of you getting 2 cards, 67%. So your chance of getting 2 cards has actually dropped by a couple of percent, 2%, which isn't a major percentage difference anyways. But the chances of getting 3 cards is increased by quite a lot. So it went from like in a more standard build from 16% to 23%. So it did increase by like what, 6 or 7%. That's not like, it's not a massive increase, but this percentage, this 3 card success percentage, came from your 1 card success. So this is reduced significantly as well. So it means that in the like most optimal build, you are basically you are reducing your risk of getting 1 card quite a bit and increasing the odds of you getting 3 cards by quite a bit as well. So basically, your odds of getting 2+ cards has increased by about 5% from 85% to 90%. But your odds of getting 3 cards has increased by about 6% as well. So overall, like, and this is in the most optimal situation as well on like a turn 1 play. If you build your deck very specific for this, and you are adding a lot of sums in order to do this, and cutting down a lot of forwards in order to do this as well, and it only yields you about a 5% increase in terms of like the value of this card, right? So that was scenario 5, right? So scenario 6, this is. Let's say like this is where we want to look at if we are playing this around the mid game. So I think this is using the same ratios as scenario 3. So same ratios as scenario 3, which would give us 15 forwards, 10 backups, and 5 summons on average in your deck if you have around 30 cards. So this is probably what, like around turn 5, turn 6, when you have about these many cards in your deck. So when the deck's a little bit smaller but still in a more standard ratio, it doesn't really affect the odds. The odds almost don't change. So if you look here, 68, so the odds of getting 2 cards is 68.97%, and this here is 69, it's actually, so this is actually surprisingly weird. It's almost exactly the same here, right? Your odds of getting 3 cards increases a little bit, right? So overall, it does seem like if you play it in the mid game, your odds of succeeding with Ramza doesn't change very drastically. Only very, very minute, maybe like 1% type difference, and that's like a pretty immeasurable type of difference, right? So moving on to scenario 7, let's say if we're playing this like pretty like late into the game, but not super late game, right? So if we're playing it like with 20 cards left in deck, we're using the same ratios. So we'd probably have on average 10 forwards left, 7 backups left, and 3 summons left in a 20 card deck. So yeah, this is getting towards that later part of the game, and we're just looking at, oh yeah, how did the numbers change? And in this case, the chance of getting 2 card success increases by what, 2%? The chance of getting 3 cards stays the same, and the chance of getting 1 card falls a little bit, right? So basically, even towards a later game, the odds of this card succeeding more doesn't really change. I guess the reason why we're running through these scenarios is that because you aren't replacing cards. So basically, when you reveal a card, it takes 1 card out of the deck, which means it thins out the deck. So when you take the second card or reveal the second card, it's a smaller deck. And then when you reveal the third card, it's a smaller deck, right? So basically, the smaller deck becomes, the more consistent your results should be, right? The more consistent your results should be. But yeah, so looking at it, like if we get to a really, really late game, right? So when you're left down to 10 cards in deck, you almost don't really want to be playing Ramza, because you don't really want to be, you really don't want to be in a situation where you're fitting out your deck at 10 cards. But let's look at it, 10 cards. Look, basically same ratio, 5, 3, 2. 10 cards left, and basically, yeah, the odds of getting 2 cards goes down to 68%, so it goes down a little bit, but your odds of getting 3 cards like increases quite a lot. And yeah, so basically, the odds of Ramza doesn't really change, like in terms of success ability, doesn't really change or vary until you're really, really late into the late game. When you're down to like 10 cards. So basically through the mid to early game, there's basically no variation in terms of like Ramza's like probability success at all. Until we get to like really, really late game, in which case you probably don't even really want to play Ramza, because you don't want to thin out your deck that much more. So that's one thing to note. Then yeah, we just basically ran the same like early, mid, late game scenarios again, but we run it with optimal balance. So scenario 9 is if you have 30 cards left in deck and we had like a 10-10-10 split, so 10-10-10 split, what are our odds going to be? In this case, the odds of getting 2 cards goes down a little bit, so it goes down to 66%, which is a little bit lower than the other numbers, which is like around the 68-69%. But your chance of getting like 1 card drops significantly to 8%, so it's quite low, and your chance of getting 3 cards goes up to 24%, which is basically 1 out of 4. So if you really, really tweak your deck to have like a very balanced number, then you play Ramza around the mid game, you are like you increase your chances of getting 3 cards quite a bit. But you do have to build around it, and you do have to wait until the mid game in order to play Ramza as well. So yeah, I'm not sure about that cost benefit analysis. We take that to like the next level of extreme. Let's say we got 21 cards in deck, which is a 7-7-7 split. And so this is getting pretty much into the late game. And yeah, in this case, basically the numbers haven't changed, but we've just got a 1% increase into the 3 card success. And then if we take it to the maximum, where we get to like 12 cards left in deck, which is like 4-4-4 split. And basically in this situation, yeah, the numbers basically don't change, except we get like another 2% decrease in one success, and we get like 27% chance in 3 successes, which is still basically like 1 out of 4, right? But your chance of getting 2 or more cards go up drastically to 95%. So it's basically like you basically can't fail this card. You have to roll basically the equivalent of a critical fail or a 1 on a D20 in order to like get 1 card. But at that stage, you probably don't really want to. So the conclusion we can make from scenario 9, 10, and 11 is that one of the things that we had to test is how big your current deck size affects the probability or the reliability of Ramza. And to be honest, you have to take very large jumps in your deck size in order to make like a few percentage change in the value of the card, right? So it means that Ramza is not one of those cards that you need to save for the late game. Playing it anywhere in the early to mid game basically doesn't change its odds too much, so you don't have to particularly build or like play around Ramza in order to sort of maximize its value. So yeah, there's not a drastic increase or decrease in terms of its probabilities. So scenario 12, what was this about? Oh yeah, this is just for shits and giggles. So I was like, oh yeah, cool. So let's say if we tried putting this Ramza into mono wind. So mono wind runs a really high forward count. I believe it's like 31 forwards, like 16, 17 backups, and then like 3 or 4 summons, right? So yeah, so this is if you were to play this card like Ramza on turn 1 in a mono wind deck somehow, right? Using these like pretty extreme ratios, and let's see what you would get. So the summon count is really low and the forward count is really, really high. So in this situation, like this is one of the few situations where Ramza isn't good. So your odds of getting 1 success goes up to 23%, which is like the highest amongst all we've seen. So usually it's sitting around the 15% in like a standard deck, and usually goes down to about 9 to 8% for like a more sort of focus or balance build. But in this case, it spikes up massively at 23%. Your odds of getting 2 cards still seem to be sitting around 69-70%, which, so I guess that's like another conclusion that we'll be concluding at the end. And the chance of you getting free cards goes down to 7%, so it's really, really low, right? So what we can tell is that like your summon count like affects like your summon count, which is usually the lowest count amongst your deck, really affects this free card success number a lot. And then yeah, I guess if we take this a little bit further, scenario 13 is all right. Okay, so scenario 13 to scenario 17 are basically all the same things, except we're just tweaking the forward number and summons, right? So we're keeping the backup number 15 is the same. So even though like it's not 15 total not 15 total backups in your deck, but these are probably 15 backups left in your deck after you've drawn your opening hand, right? So that's why total cards is 44, right? So in this situation, we're just tweaking the numbers to look at if we increase the summon count by 1, or decrease the summon count by 1 and increase the forward count by 1, how would this affect our like ultimate odds, right? So if we, so like here we have like, so all of them have 15 backups. But yeah, so we're increasing the forward count by 1 and decreasing the summon count by 1. So let's look at the results, right? So the interesting one to look at is the 2 card success. It basically stays the same. So 68.76, 68.97, 69.15. So basically it only deviates by like, what, 2% over this entire 5 card spread. So basically, this is virtually negligible, right? So it doesn't affect your 2 card success at all. So if you are building like a more standard sort of balance type deck, you can generally expect to hit 2 cards like 2/3 of the time, right? Which is pretty reasonable. But the thing to note is your odds of getting free cards. So if we go from 8 summons to 7 summons, this jumps from 17% to 15%. So it's about a 2% decrease. Then go from 7 to 6, 15 to 13%. So about another 2% decrease. And then here it's another 13 to 11. So basically 12%. So it's like basically 2%. And here from 11 to 9. So that's another 2% decrease. So basically it seems that if your summon count is around the like 8 to 5-ish mark, every summon that you take out reduces your like chance of getting free card success by about 2%, right? So yeah. So basically the lower your summon count, the lower the odds of you getting like two plus cards, right? So yeah, you generally want to be running a deck that has a higher summon count. Like I think running a deck that has the more standard like 27-ish, 17-ish, and like 9-ish sort of like ratio is going to be pretty reliable for this card. Because yeah, even in this scenario, 86% chance is actually pretty solid. It means that you'll hit it like what? 6 out of 7 times, which is pretty good, right? So it means that if you were to play best of ones like throughout the entire day, one time in the entire day, it will like get you 1 card. But every other time it will get you like 2 or 3 cards. So that seems like to be reasonably reliable to like play this card in just like a standard sort of deck, but not necessarily strong enough to be like called consistent, right? Because yeah, there's very little that you can do to hedge this number up. So yeah, if we look back at it, unless we really go hard, and like build like a perfectly balanced deck, which increases the odds to about 90-something%. In general, the odds of getting 2 plus cards is around 85%, no matter what the sort of variables are, unless you just go super low summon, in which case it just kind of shits a bed at 76%, right? So I've got a list of conclusions that I sort of like a list of conclusions about this card overall in general. So number 1, Yeah, getting 2 cards from Ramza will deviate between 66 to 70%. And it's pretty difficult to deviate outside this range if you're building like a sort of standardish deck with sort of like 15 to 17 backups. So if you're running like a normal amount of backups, Ramza is going to generally be pretty reliable. Conclusion number 2. Conclusion on number 2. In general, the 25-17-8 ratio will get you free cards, basically the same amount of times as you'll get 1 card. So generally, the odds of you doing bad is also similar to the odds of you doing well with this card. Number 3, even in the most optimal build, you're only really adding like your success chance like 6 or like 5 or 6%. So 5 or 6% is like a very, very minor difference. And I don't think it overall adds to, it doesn't significantly add to the probability or the success or the reliability of the card, but it does like really hinder your deck building. So in my personal opinion, it's probably not a good idea to specifically build a like balanced deck, like where everything's exactly the same in order to increase the number by like 5%, right? Next conclusion is, so like summon count deviates greatly between decks. Generally, most decks will have like a very similar sort of backup count, and forwards and summons will then deviate very much, right? So your summon count is probably the most important count when looking at the effectiveness of Ramza. Every summon that you take out will decrease the success rate of Ramza by about 2%. Of getting free cards. Getting 2 cards basically the same, like no matter what. If you do play Ramza, you do probably want to play a deck that runs like a higher count of summons. And that's pretty much it with the conclusion of Ramza. So basically, Ramza is a lot less risky than people originally think. And also the potential is not as high as people already think. So you don't need to build a very balanced deck in order to make Ramza good. And she is not as inconsistent or as bad as people may think. So overall, that's my conclusion. I know I kind of want to just do a short video and end up being 20 minutes. If you guys have any questions, do let me know in the comment section down below. If you guys do want to play around with this formula and like tweak with your own numbers and whatnot, I told you guys about it earlier in the video. Just like create a copy of this Google Sheet in Google Sheets, and you can play around with the numbers yourself. But until next time, Grand J out.